What if today was the day that you began to have childlike faith and believe God for everything? You start to go to God in prayer and you start to just pray in a way that you say, I know God is going to show up. My faith is so high that I know God is going to step in. This video is what the Lord began to show me on what we have to do in order to increase our faith. Your faith is the key that unlocks all the doors, and it's nearly impossible to step into the big things God has for you if you have little faith. If this video is already helping and blessing you, do me a favor, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe, because there's so much more coming to this channel. You do not want to miss it. Now, if we look at the word faith, faith is actually defined as complete trust or confidence in someone or something. And so asking yourself this question, do you have complete trust in God? Do you have complete confidence that He will show up? That's faith. This is why in the word, we see people who are movers in faith. We look into Hebrews and we see the hall of faith. Complete trust that you know that God is with you. You know that God is there. You know that God will show up. I was in a season where my faith was depleted. It was so low. And He began to give me the instructions and the steps on what I needed to do to increase my faith. So the first step into increasing your faith is first you have to assess your faith. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to say, what percentage is my faith right now? On a scale of 1 to 100, where's your faith? We have to start to get to a place where we start to self-assess ourselves and see where we really are. And when you start to do that, you start to say, you know what, my faith is really low right now. I admit I'm at 10%. I admit I'm at 30%. Because the only way for you to know how to increase your faith is that you have to know where your faith is. So let me know in the comments, where's your faith right now? Now, typically when your faith is low, when your faith is in a place where you need to increase your faith, it's because you're in a rough season. And so the Lord began to tell me, He said, start to think back to a time when you knew I was real. When you knew God was real. When you felt His presence like never before. When you knew He was with you like never before. Because when you're in that season where your faith is low, we start to forget what God did in the previous season. We get amnesia on how big God is. We get amnesia on what God did in the previous season. And so this is why we have to get to a place where we start to say, hold on, I need to remember who God is and what He did. And when you start to do that, you start to remember, hold on, but God is real. If He showed up back then He can show up right now. So again, in the comments, think back to that moment. Like, when was a moment when you said to yourself, you know what, this was only God. Only God could do this. So number 2 is think back to a moment or a time when you knew God was real. Number 3 is to think back when a time when God showed up in your life. Now, I'm going to use the example where I was at a really bad place in my life, and I just remember being in a place where I'm like, God, if you don't show up right now, I don't think I'm going to make it. And I started to pray because I was in a place where I just had so much anxiety and depression on me, and I started to pray like, look, if you don't show up, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to tomorrow. And you guys, that night He supernaturally healed me from anxiety and depression. I haven't dealt with it ever since. And so when I talk about a time when God showed up and showed out, think back to a time when you know that big thing that happened. Did He heal you? Did He heal your mom? Did He pay your bills? Did He, what it's something happened in your life. If you are a believer, He showed up in your life at some point. Again, we get amnesia and we forget. But think back to a moment when God showed up and showed out in your life. It's going to trigger your memory to say, hold on, I'm going deeper. Not only is God real, but I've seen God show up in my life. And so when we start to do that, now our faith is increasing. It's so easy to forget these moments of when God showed up in our life when we're going through a difficult and a hard time. It's not like you get that daily reminder when you're going through it that God brought you out of something previously. So it's real easy to forget these things. And so in order to increase your faith, you got to go back. You got to go back and remember the things that God did, the way He showed up in your life. It is major. And every single time I've been in a season where I'm like, oh, I'm not about to make it, my faith is so low, I started to think back on how God showed up in a previous season, and it increased my faith like never before. And step number 4 is to go spend time with God and talk about this. Spend that time with Him to talk about that time when He showed up. Spend that time to talk about how it made you feel, like just the release that you had, or just that breakthrough moment. Because when you start to go back, like when you're in a relationship with someone and you remember in the old times, that's kind of how it is when you take these things back to Him in prayer. It's a reminder. You're remembering when He showed up. You're remembering who He really is. And it's going to increase your faith like never before. So number 4 is to go back to God and remember those moments when you knew He was there, when you knew He was a very present help, when you knew He was right there by your side. Because He's still right by your side. You may just be in a season of testing right now. You may just be in a season where He's preparing you for the next level. And sometimes it's uncomfortable and it doesn't feel good, but it's necessary. As your faith increases, use it to unlock those locked doors. Now you have to start to believe in everything. Now you start to go out. Now you start to put work into the things God told you to do. Now you start to step out of your comfort zone. Now you start to do whatever it is that you feel you need to do in this season. This is how you increase your faith. Now, as you guys know, I like to have an actionable step in every single video. So in the comments, let us know a time when God showed up and showed out in your life. Because when you start to talk about a time when God showed up, maybe someone else has not had that experience yet, and you're encouraging them to believe and know that God can show up in their life. So my channel is all about growing in your journey and your walk with God. But when it comes to your walk with God, sometimes you're confused on where you are. We know with this journey and this walk, sometimes you're like, where am I? Where am I headed? What is the goal? Where are we going, Lord? So I want to invite you guys to check out my free masterclass, Which Season Are You In with God? Click the link in the description or in the comments so that you can check it out. It basically lets you know directly where you are. It has helped thousands of people all over the world. So make sure you click the link to find out which season you're in with God, because when you find this out, it teaches you how to get to the next season. So anyone, if you're feeling stuck, stagnant, you feel like there's no movement in your walk with God, all you need to do is find out which season you're in. So click the link and make sure you like this video and subscribe if it has helped you or blessed you. So if you want to learn more, you can click one of the videos here on the screen to grow even deeper in your walk with God, and I'll see you in the next video.